One of them is an in-house one and one is outsourced. These are the pictures of the recently inaugurated in-house call center. This is in Bangalore, a 250-seater call center. So just to recap, so we have been selling closed Snapdeal in the mid of last year. This year we started selling on two more platforms, Tata Click and Paytm. We also have our own e-commerce platform, me.com, and we also do sell very small quantity in the offline, through the offline retail, through three partners, Redington, Just Buy Live, and Innocom. One thing that we are very proud of that we have done this year is, if you look at last year, a lot of feedback that you guys gave us was that there was a huge lag between our global launches and India launches. If you look at Redmi Note, Mi 4, Redmi 2, Redmi 2 Prime, the product that we launched last year, there was usually a gap of 4 to 6 months. But if you look at the products that we have launched this year, Redmi Note 3, Mi Max, Mi 5, and Redmi 3S, we have been able to launch each of these products within 2 months of our global launch. So this is a conscious effort that we have made this year. And with this, I would like to invite on stage Jay, who leads our products, to talk a little bit more about all these products that we have launched.
Cool. Thanks, Manu. Hey, everyone. I think last time I missed the Hyderabad press meetup. Cool. So as Manu mentioned, I'm just going to try to go through a couple of the products that we launched this year and then talk about Redmi 3S, which is what we're here to talk about. So our flagship this year is Mi 5. We launched this at the end of March, which, as Manu mentioned, is just less than a month, almost exactly a month after our launch in China. You know, the highlights, Mi 5, the best part of Mi 5 is the camera, in my opinion. This picture was taken from a car. I was actually in the car. You can see the sort of side mirrors over there at a stoplight. We had just pulled up. It was a point and click, and you get this wonderful photo, whole thing's in focus, beautiful colors. I think a lot of people talk about different sort of camera improvements, but you know, to us, the measurement of a camera, you know, specs matter, but it's really your confidence, your ability to pull out the phone and take a good photo, and that is really what Mi 5 accomplishes. Mi 5 is also unbelievably light when you pick it up. I think we have some of the devices outside. You can check them out. It is really, really light. It's only 129 grams. It's this beautiful glass body. And despite the fact that it's so light, it still has the biggest battery of the 5-inch flagships. This was around the time when we launched. And you know, I'm going to talk a lot about battery today. I could probably spend 2 or 3 hours talking about all of these products, but you know, probably at least half people in this room would be bored. But the one thing that everybody appreciates everywhere is battery. You know, you can never really have too much battery life, and that is something that we've really focused on in every single one of our products this year. So that's Mi 5. It's 24999. Again, launched in March, and it shipped with Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 820 CPU. So in June, we launched Mi Max. And Mi Max is a new product category for us. It's a massive 6.44-inch display. But again, the big focus of Mi Max is the battery. The battery on this phone is the biggest battery of any phone we've ever shipped. It's 20% bigger than Redmi Note 3, you know, 4,850 milliamp hours. But in practice, that's actually really significant. So we did a YouTube streaming test for Mi Max, and it got almost 14 hours of streaming a YouTube video. And if you look at kind of the second best device there was the Galaxy Note, which was, you know, a little less than half the time. So, you know, if I keep talking about battery, hopefully that isn't boring. But the amazing thing about this phone is the remarkable battery life. Like I said, it has a huge 6.44-inch display. This is actually Manu's primary phone, I think. So it may not seem like this phone can fit in your pocket when you look at it. That is Mi Max. Is really the remarkable thing here. So Manu mentioned our Redmi sort of global stats, the 110 million. Want to talk a little bit about Redmi's history in India. At the 110 million event, when we launched Redmi Pro in China, Lei Jun said this, which is, when one person loves you, it's happiness. When 100 million people love you, it's a responsibility. If you look at some of the phones which are cheaper or, you know, in our category, they're just not good phones. They're not a good representation of what we are. So we consider Redmi to be a responsibility. It's our responsibility to make amazing technology and premium features more affordable. It's not about making cheap phones. So like I said, the last device we launched was in March, Redmi Note 3. And Redmi 1S was a massive success. I think for those of us in the industry, there was kind of before Redmi 1S and after Redmi 1S. This sort of the smartphone landscape has changed. And the feedback we got from you, the media, was also really, really great. I think this is from Times of India. Redmi 1S is a game changer. It redefines the entry-level smartphone segment and creates a new benchmark. And then I like the Gizmodo headline, which is, should you buy it? Oh yes, that's a no-brainer. So again, it was just like, it was kind of this phone better than anyone else. So, it's also been successful in the industry. This came from the GSMA Asia Awards. This was last month. This is our SVP Shanzong. It won the best affordable smartphone. We also have data from 91 Mobiles. This is based on sort of page views, popularity of devices on their website. And Redmi Note 3 has been the #1 best, most popular phone. And if you look at this data, which they actually just released, based on percentage of page views, GB variant, you see number 5 here is actually the 16 GB variant. So it's just a really, really phenomenally popular device. The sort of successor to Redmi Note 3 in a 5-inch form. So first I want to talk about design. If you've seen Redmi Note 3, Redmi 3S will look very, very familiar. Whoa. I don't know what that is. If you see Redmi Note 3, Redmi 3S will be very familiar. You have the same kind of curved edges. You have the same metal body, fingerprint sensor, with a nice metallic rim. The thing here is that at 10,000 rupees, which is this is something that if you spend 7,000 bucks, it's hard to be proud of the phone that you have. Right now, there's the dark gray with the black front, and then the silver with the white front. But by far the best thing about this phone is the battery life. For those of you who have used it or have read about it, this is the most amazing thing. I think, again, in this segment, really is the first phone we think can get 2 days worth of battery life. It also has a HD display. Redmi Note 3 had a 1080p display. So because the resolution is lower, you end up getting better battery life. We use the same battery technology that we used in Mi 4i. This is the super dense battery. It's the highest density battery on the market. If you look at the sort of split of the phone, you can see here the battery is like it's more than half the phone is battery. So really the remarkable amount of engineering in this phone went into shrinking everything else. And if you compare this battery to the battery that's in Redmi Note 3, they're basically the same size. So it's everything else that we shrunk down. The 2, and this is like less than a year ago. We almost doubled the battery. And despite that, double the size of battery, but the device is still thinner, and it's only 11 grams heavier. And that's despite the fact that sort of nerdy folks. This came from one of our testers in Delhi. I don't know if you can actually see the stats here, but he had 3 days of battery life. And it's not like this phone was sitting in a closet, right? Like he had mobile network on the entire time, Wi-Fi was on half the time, and he got 3 days of battery. This one, again, is one of my favorites. Almost 2 days of battery. He has hotspot on, and Wi-Fi and mobile network were on the entire time. I posted this screenshot on Twitter yesterday. It's, most phones, if you get a day's worth of battery life, that's pretty good. Again, I don't know if you can read this, but this guy had 15 hours of screen on time. There's no real perfect battery metric, but this is probably one of the closer ones, which is really like how long can the screen be on. And I think many phones would be lucky to get this kind of battery life. And this guy, I think when we met him in Delhi, he said he watched 3 movies back to back. Our focus on reducing the gap between our China release dates and our India release dates. But it's not just bringing our own products here. We're also bringing new technology to India first. When we launched Redmi Note 3 in March, it was the first Snapdragon 650 device available in India. It was the first by a few months. It was also, even in America, it was difficult to get. This was the best place to buy a Snapdragon 650 device. I think we're accustomed to having, some relative or friend who's traveling abroad and having them bring electronics here. And, this is the opposite case. I had people telling me, hey, I'm going to go to America. I need to bring a Redmi Note 3 there. Can you help me get an FCO? And that's really what we tried to do, is bring new technology to India first. We were the first to launch Snapdragon 820 here when we launched it in March. Again, first by, I think, a few months. And with Redmi 3S, it's no different. We're the first to launch Snapdragon 430. So real quick, Snapdragon 430 is an octa-core CPU. It has a very similar setup to what's in Snapdragon. But if you look at the performance is actually, it is in its class, it's the best CPU. Even though the clock speed is a little bit lower than Snapdragon 616, because thermal performance on this, it's almost a 5-degree difference in temperature, and this is after 25 minutes of Asphalt 8. Things that Redmi devices have always been really great at. When Redmi 1S launched, this is the thing that kind of blew everyone's mind, was how great the camera was, even though it was a 6,000 repeat phone. It captures a lot of the colors accurately, but you can even see some detail in the darker parts of this image. Like you can see buildings and trees. In the source image, it's actually quite clear. You'd be pretty happy. This is one of those things that inspires confidence. You managed to be phone that's capturing. The device that we've launched this year has had 4G and LTE out of the box, and VoLTE. We also support all of the bands that are required in India. Right now, the ones that are in use are band 3 and band 40. These are also in use by the Chinese telecom carriers, China and India, which are, designed for China and then rebranded or just, brought over. They don't have band 5. And that's because it's not used there. And this is by far the most popular feature that we've had. It's called Dual Apps. It's a really, really useful feature. Everybody on the beta testing team has really loved this thing. Once you get used to it, it's hard to switch to a phone which doesn't have it. It isn't a good competitor. Pretty much across the board, there's no device that is, nearly, especially if you're looking at design, there's really nothing. And then in my favorite column, I don't think all these columns are the same. I think if you have 33% better battery life, it should be weighted more than like 3 megapixels. So there is, in our opinion, there's a Redmi 3S Prime, and that is a version with fingerprint. So it's, again, similar fingerprint technology in, to the one in Redmi Note 3. It has 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of internal storage. Again, fingerprint sensor. And that retails for $8,999. And this one's called Redmi. I think by far the best thing about this phone is that huge 4,000 milliamp hour battery, which gives that phone.